Hello everyone. So today I'm talking about the astrological weather report for this week specifically, so the week of July 4th to the 11th, which is on a Sunday. And just generally how I wrote some notes up for myself in terms of what the energies are doing this week, what's happening, how it's affecting us, how we're feeling about everything that's happening this week energetically, because a lot of times you will feel certain things and just have no clue why you feel that way, or not. You won't have any understanding about it. So I figure if I kind of break down a few points, you may resonate with some of these points. You may be experiencing them or going through them. I know me personally, I've certainly been feeling the intensity of the energy since we entered Cancer season, which was June 21st. Because Cancer is a water sign, it's a very emotional sign. As a matter of fact, it's one of the most emotional signs out of the water signs. So Cancer is definitely deep feeling, it's deep emotions, it's vulnerability, kind of all of these things, but most certainly just a sensitivity to feelings and to emotions. So if you're noticing that you are more sensitive this week, or have been, already so far, and maybe even like in the last couple of weeks you've already been feeling this, I know I certainly have been, then you might understand why you perhaps feel like crying at the drop of a hat, or why you're just so extremely emotional. I know for me, I'm noticing like every little thing seems to be setting me off lately, and just waterworks are kicking in, and that's not usually like me. So it's very different. It's a very different energy. It's very, very intense. I am finding that as well, which is why I thought I would share these few points to help us kind of navigate through this week's emotional turmoil, if I can put it that way. So very first thing I wrote down was, and this is something I've talked about in the past in previous videos, is the things that don't work any longer are going to continue to not work, and they're going to continue to break down. Well, that theme is for the entire year. It's not for a week or for a month. It is for the entire year. And as a matter of fact, it's not just even this year, but it's going to be for years coming. So this is sort of the general energy that we should now accept and embrace, because ultimately, what else can we do? That's what we need to do, is accept and embrace the change that is continually upon us, especially changes in big sectors like healthcare, education, finance, all of those, housing market, lots and lots of changes will continue to come as the years are progressing forward. So denial is not an option any longer. That's one of the biggest themes of the entire year, and it's kind of specifically highlighted this week. So things in your life that, again, are not working, things that are broken and have been broken for a long time, you know, situations with people or relationships or anything like that, they're going to be so obvious. They're going to be so in your face, because we're really asked, and the planetary alignments are really lining us up to heal those things, to fix those things, to release them, because without that, we really are not going to move forward. We're going to continue staying in stagnation as a community or as a whole, because if we understand that we're all connected, we're all kind of pulling each other forward in a certain way. So, you know, one person may be more ahead than another person, but that person who is ahead is energetically actually kind of pulling people with them that are not as far ahead, and that's the beauty of it. So even somebody that's struggling with getting their life sorted out, or figuring out how to bring about change in their life, they're actually going to even have a little bit of an easier time, because you're just going to feel the need to do it. And you're also going to have the desire to do it. I'm finding like it's really waking up this fire within us to really take charge of our lives, really take action on our own behalf, and really make sure that you align your life to your personal values in terms of what's important to you, not to other people's values, or not to follow the norm or the status quo. So these things are going to be challenged, and they're going to be things that you're going to have to look at and see, you know, what are my values for life, and how do I perhaps give my power away when it comes to those values by following the herd, by doing what everybody else does. You know, this is a time, I think, where individuality will be not only respected, but it will be pushed to the top. Like, I find anybody who is willing to be authentic, who is willing to like show up as they are and own their power and own their identity in terms of who they are, based on their values, those are the people that are going to be energetically majorly supported. And not just this week, but throughout, again, coming years, moving forward, because that is what the universe is asking us to do. It's what we're collectively being asked to do, to finally show up as authentically as possible, to start really recognizing our values and aligning our life to those values appropriately, and in all directions, like in all areas of your life. So for an example, I'm noticing for myself that I'm having a really, how do I say this? I'm having a difficult time supporting companies that don't have values. Like, I just can't see, like, I don't know, there's this, I'm not attracted to their products. I don't, as a matter of fact, it's repulsive. Like, it's creating this opposite effect for me, where I'm not wanting to participate now in anything with other companies or with products or with services, with anything that doesn't align with my values. Like, if there's corruption in a company and I know it, or if I know that they're very greedy, or if their whole business model is 100% financially based, like, that's all they care about is just to make money and as much of it as possible, but they don't see any value in providing quality, or they don't see any value in providing like a good work environment, perhaps for the people that make their products, then I can't support those companies. I can't support those products. And the really sad part is I'm finding, the more like I'm kind of researching, I'm finding that there's a lot of companies that are like that, who work in the old system, what I call the old system, because we're paradigm shifting. We're shifting into a whole new way of being and a way of living. So the old system was all based on greed and money and power hungriness and a desire for more and more and more, where the new system is now going to be based on less is more, actually. So our values are going to have a huge turnaround, I think. And it's going to become very obvious in the coming weeks, coming months, in the coming years. So I think aligning ourselves like now already is really important. Because let's face it, like realistically, I think a lot of people are feeling like the changes. They're feeling the desire to want to change a lot of things in their life that don't work. So we have to just like go with that flow. Like, don't resist it, go with the flow and allow yourself to really explore, you know, what your values are, and then kind of build on that, you know. So getting back to my notes, so being emotional, that was something I mentioned earlier. So feeling really emotional, again, it's because we're in Cancer season. Some signs will be more affected emotionally than other signs. I know for me, I have been kind of a wreck emotionally in these past like couple of weeks. It's just so easy to cry. I just find I get so moved by things so deeply. And that's another thing I'm going to get to, is the depth of feeling that we are currently experiencing is so cool. It's really a lot deeper than it has been in the past. So even that, if that's something that you're noticing within yourself, that you're feeling on a much deeper level than you ever have before, don't be alarmed by it, and don't be afraid of those feelings. Like, really let them surface and really allow yourself to feel those feelings. Because it's a beautiful thing. It's like what's happening essentially is that we're connecting to the innermost part of our souls. And as we connect to that innermost part, it's going to just start allowing feelings and just pure vulnerability to start flowing from us. And that vulnerability is beautiful, because that's what we need to like let each other in. That's what, without vulnerability, we have a lot of people with walls. And it's very difficult to kind of get anywhere with a person if they always have walls up, right? Like, walls are what? They're fear, right? And these are the things, again, denial is not an option any longer. We have to be aware of our walls. You know, why am I building walls? What am I afraid of? What constructs this wall? Like, is this a pattern for me? Are there life circumstances that have built this wall? Like, have I gone through a bunch of traumatic shit and that's what's causing me to now have my defenses up constantly and not allowing me to fully express and show the world like who I am? Excuse me. So there's kind of all these questions that are swirling in my head, and I think should be kind of swirling in everyone's head right now, so that we get a deeper understanding about who we are, because this is the time. Right now is the time for you to discover who you are on a much, much deeper level, not the superficial that you've been used to up until this point. So another point that I wrote down was, we're going to be feeling very inside out. So again, this comes back to the feelings, to the Cancer season that we're in. Feeling inside out, and by that, which I kind of already touched on, is that deep inner being wants to emerge, and it's a deep inner feeling that is now beginning to come forth. It's almost like we're beginning to open our hearts a little bit more every day. And I think the more we start to get comfortable with vulnerability, and the more we start to get comfortable with opening our hearts, it will just go that much smoother and that much easier. But that too, like, we have to understand why it's essential for us to do this. You know, what have I been doing up until now? What experiences have I had that closed up my heart? And, you know, is it really fair for me to keep my heart closed? Because perhaps the next person experiencing me is going to be like, whoa, what's up with them? Because they don't know you. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you have experienced. And you're bringing all that, like, negativity and all of that trauma and hurt and pain from your past experience into this fresh one. We don't want to be doing that anymore. So that is, again, that's going to be something else to be mindful of and aware of this week, is how much of my old story or my old trauma am I still choosing to carry? Am I still choosing to believe that story? Like, is that still the story that I want to tell myself? Or is it just like, that's what I'm used to telling myself? That's something that you can question too, because I know for me, my story has been trauma, trauma, trauma. And then when I kind of looked at my entire story, I'm like, man, you know, if I keep telling myself this story that, you know, I come from a whole bunch of trauma and I come from a lot of negative experiences, like, shit, I'm never going to open up my shell, right? If I stay in that energy and if I stay in that emotional environment, I will never be able to release it. I won't be able to break the wall down to let somebody in, to open my heart. So this is something we have to be aware of. And these are the deep inner feelings and emotions that are going to be surfacing and coming up for processing. So please try not to shove any of those feelings down. Please be willing to look at them, to process them, sit with it, cry your face off if that's what you need to do. You know, beat the shit out of a pillow if that's what you need to do. That's what I did the other day. I had a full, like, kind of meltdown, like, emotional. It was just frustration. It was so much built up frustration, and I needed to get it out. And I got it out. And I got it out in a healthy, safe way, because I was home. Nobody else was here. It didn't affect anyone. And I just did what I needed to do to blow off some steam, literally. And my God, the release afterwards, the lightening, the way I felt after was just, it was like literally I took this heavy backpack and just put it down. That's what it felt like. It was like I puked out all of this frustration. Like, I didn't literally puke it because I screamed it out, but I screamed out all this frustration. And it was awesome. It really felt good. And I was like, oh shit, this is like me being vulnerable right now. And experiencing it was awesome, because I was in a safe place and I was by myself. So it was great. I was able to do that. And I think if it's easier for you, do it that way. You know, make sure that when you do allow yourself to have a release, then those releases need to be done, I think, in private, so that you can just process. Because when it comes to healing, I find the actual work is all you. It's all you, and it will never be anyone but you. You are the only person that can heal yourself. You are the only person that can process your emotions. Nobody can process your emotions for you. So understanding that, I don't try to look on the outside anymore to figure out what's happening with me on the inside. Instead, I just look at what's actually going on the inside, and then how can I just maybe take a little piece of it and just process that little piece of it if that's all I'm capable of today.